Hey everybody, welcome back to Engaging the Phenomenon. And today's discussion is on MILABS, which is military abductions, and in essence is a military hoaxed or staged UFO alien abduction. Now I know that sounds incredibly extreme, but this is an issue that's been floating around in the UFO community for at least several decades. One of the reasons why MILABS are so interesting, other than their sheer alarming nature, is that people like Dr. Stephen Greer and Tom DeLonge, with known insider military industrial intelligence connections, have reported MILABS as something legitimate. I think Tom DeLonge may have mentioned, but I know for certain that Dr. Greer has mentioned that he's spoken to several individuals who were on abduction squads, is what he called, and that participated in these kind of MILAB abductions. And he's claiming that he has several corroborating sources that have refused so far to go public, as far as, you know, give up their identity and more of the nature of the program. One kind of other red flag about this is that somebody who has gone on the record saying it is genuine is Richard Doty.
Richard Doty, I was assigned as a special agent with the Air Force Office of Special Investigations at Kirtland Air Force Base. I was a counterintelligence officer at the base.
And we all know Richard Doty was in the Air Force Office of Special Investigations out as a counterintelligence agent, who purposely deceived and used counterintelligence against the UFO community firsthand, with people like Paul Benowitz, William Moore, and Linda Moulton Howe at the least.
Doty had this wonderful way to sell it. I'm with the government, you cooperate with us, and I'm going to tell you what the government really knows about UFOs deep down in those vaults. I'm going to tell you all kinds of lies.
Now, it is also, MILABS are also interesting because people like Jacques Vallée and Dr. Kit Green did at least entertain the idea and look into it to see if there was something genuine about it. I don't know what kind of conclusions that they came to, but they did look into see if so-called UFO abductions had any kind of military involvement. Now, there are several books out discussing MILABS, other than maybe Dr. Greer's books that talk about it. You have a book actually entitled MILABS, which is biased in the sense that it tries to prove the case for MILABS, but it is a good reference material if you're interested in the subject. It's a good book to read. There's some documents in there. There's some witness testimony accounts describing some of the different nature of these military UFO abductions and how they're done and what the effects of them are. Again, if MILABS are real, it's one of the most disturbing things about the entire UFO cover-up to begin with. Is you have some kind of military or paramilitary group performing UFO alien abductions and somehow deceiving people, and basically victimizing people to thinking that they're being abducted by aliens. That is a extremely disturbing thing. Now, I'll say right now that there isn't an overwhelming amount of compelling evidence that MILABS are real, although there are people who claim to be MILAB victims, which is interesting. Now, let's say out of maybe 1,000 people who claim to have abductions, maybe a small percentage of them had an actual CE4 abduction on-board experience with the UFO. So say you have 1,000 people, maybe, I don't know, 100 of them had an actual abduction experience. That was not kind of some kind of dream or sleep paralysis or something else. If those 100 were true abductions and MILABS are real, I'm not saying they are. Again, this is something I'm still investigating myself, and it's very hard to determine if there's legitimacy to it. So out of those 100 true abductees, maybe if MILABS are real, maybe 5 of them, a very, very, very small percentage of them, I would imagine, would be actual MILAB victims. Again, if MILABS are real, that's a huge if. Not to discredit or think down upon or anything about people who claim to be MILAB victims, but it's just an incredibly hard pill to swallow to consider that some kind of military group was involved with abductions. And again, you have people like Richard Doty going on the record saying that people dressed up in suits or that they used deformed people to roll out these staged abductions. That is you know, to make a claim like that, you need some kind of, you know, evidence, at least several corroborating pieces of evidence other than just Richard Doty said so, which in the case of Richard Doty is the case. He doesn't have any evidence that he provides other than his testimony, which is hard to take seriously in the first place, knowing he was a counterintelligence agent. Now, Tom DeLonge has talked about it before, and I'll play a clip right now of that.
Someone's gotta present the arguments and the discussions and the fear and why they did certain things during that time. You know, there's a part in Chasing Shadows where one of the characters wakes up and in an abduction scenario and finds out they're really just wearing costumes. That really happened. And then you gotta ask yourself why. You know, the only way we can get to the why is by putting it out in a fictional story.
When I wrote the outline for that section, and you read it and you called me about, like, when you started to read about him waking up on the ship and there were all these alien things around you, like, oh my God, he's not going there.
Yeah. I remember. I was so happy. And the thing is, it's in a nonfiction book, they would say, someone found themselves in an abduction, and their name's so-and-so, and it was 1962, and they noticed a zipper on one of the aliens or something. And that would be the end of it. In the novel, we can get to a conversation that says we have to fake an abduction because of this reason. Well, what do you mean this reason? Because these are the stakes. Well, we don't have to lie to people. We have to lie to people. You have to see those conversations to know why they ended up wearing costumes and doing that to people. And it's not some nefarious purpose, you know. So
and it's not a binary, right? If there's a zipper, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything is explained.
That's for sure. And we early on were saying, you know, we're specifically not trying to answer.
Now we can see that Tom DeLonge is supporting the ideas of MILABS as something genuine. Dr. Greer has also had something to say on this issue.
Has this already been beta tested? Yes. So they beta tested and have been testing on the public sightings that are man-made UFOs, often piggybacking on sightings of actual ET craft so that people are confused, don't have any discernment. They've also been involved in using first the stagecraft of little people, and I mean no offense to short people. I know sometimes people get prickly when I talk about this because I'm 6'4", but special operations folks who are under 5 feet and with certain makeup and masks on these anti-gravities who would go then and abduct people. So there have been abduction squads, which are also confirmed by this Air Force intelligence officer, that have been operative for decades. And when it has suited the intelligence community, they have engaged in human abductions that 100% fool those poor victims who really think they were abducted by an ET. And they weren't, but it sure looks like it. Now, there are two modalities used here. The aircraft itself, which is an anti-grav. The stagecraft initially were special operations personnel who now they have robotic ones that look actually like certain species of ETs, extraterrestrial biological entities in the EBINs. But they're man-made. I know several people who've worked on making these creatures, and they've been called programmed life forms. But they have integrated circuits in their neural complex. They're 100% man-made. But they would absolutely fool 99.999999 to out to 100 decimal points. Anyone in the public that it was extraterrestrial. Those were fully operational, have been for decades. The early ones were these more clumsy attempts. It's also done in association with electromagnetic weapon systems that alter awareness, can make you black out, and also certain chemicals, drugs, canisters that'll be thrown, and the person will then pass out, have no memory of what happened, and then awaken with this other event happen, having been abducted by an extraterrestrial.
Now, from what I understand, Dr. Greer's talk on MILABS is a bit more extreme than Tom DeLonge's. Tom DeLonge's discussion on MILABS, and in Tom DeLonge's book, Secret Machines Chasing Shadows, this is a big part of the story, that there was a human military group that did an abduction, and it was supposed to be an alien abduction, but it was really a military group that dressed up like aliens and abducted them with like a fake UFO or a reverse engineered craft, which is a little extreme. In some of the MILAB lore, it said that they used black helicopters also, and that's also in the book that I referred to before. Now, Dr. Greer's end of the spectrum is that MILABs are committed, if I can say, with PLFs, which are programmed life forms, basically some kind of cloned alien or robotic alien device that it's made to look like an alien, that has a circuit and is remotely controlled. And so it's like you have like little aliens like the Stan Romanek alien walking around, but they use gas canisters and conventional technology in that sense, but they bring them on an alien reproduction vehicle with a reverse engineered alien craft, and they do the abduction that way. Now, again, this is more on the extreme side of things. Tom DeLonge, for some reason, has said that they had to do these staged abductions for whatever reason. Some people speculate that it's if there are true people that were abducted by true non-human intelligence, that these operations were done to extract information from those abductees and contactees to see what the non-human intelligence told them, communicated to them. Was there some kind of technological information? Was there some kind of actionable intelligence? Did they tell them why the non-human intelligence was here and was interacting with humanity and things of that nature? So that's one theory. Dr. Greer goes so far as to say that these abductions are purposely done in fear so that it will trick people into believing that non-human intelligence, UFO intelligence, aliens, extraterrestrials are bad, so people will fear them, and it will help unite people in war against ETs. The hoax alien threat scenario, Project Bluebeam, that kind of idea. Now, you know what? That whole idea about a hoax alien threat may be right. Maybe Dr. Greer's right. Again, that's really hard to swallow at this point. There's some stuff you can say, oh, maybe it looks like they're leading to that, but I'm not convinced really that such a thing could be done would be done. That sounds like an extreme measure. I don't know why somebody would go to that extent to do that. It'd be a pretty ridiculous thing. But again, maybe Dr. Greer's right after all. I don't know. These kind of things are really interesting, I'd have to say. But the bottom line is that somebody or some group of people on the inside of these government or government-related UFO programs, unacknowledged special access programs, want us to hear about MILABS. They want us to believe in MILABS. They want us to think MILABS are real. Is that because that MILABS are genuine? Is that because they're trying to deceive the public? Is that because they're trying to discredit real abductions? Is that, some kind of way to confuse and divide the UFO community? I'm not sure. And, I can't tell you if MILABS are real or if they're just completely fake, or maybe there's something somewhere in the middle where there's a bit of it that is genuine and the rest is kind of scrambled in disinformation. It's really hard to say. But the bottom line is that somebody wants us to believe that they're real. These kind of insiders that Dr. Greer has spoken to, which he said he has spoken to several people on abduction squads that do this. Tom DeLonge and the insiders that he speaks to have, at least some of them, we don't know which ones, have told him that this is real. And for some reason, these people within these UFO programs, whether they're real UFO programs or they're disinformation UFO programs, want us to hear about this. So you have to consider that. And again, I think this is something that's going to be an important conversation in the future once there is a real disclosure, and we're in a post-disclosure world, and the entire world knows for sure that UFOs are here and they represent non-human intelligence. Then people are going to take abductions much more seriously. And once that happens, then people will say, could some of these have been MILABS or military abductions? Because once people know that UFOs are real for certain, no doubt, it's been announced all over the world, abductions will be an extremely pressing topic, and people are going to be asking questions and investigating it very hard. And at that point, the MILAB literature and the MILAB question will be at its peak, because then people will really wonder, could this have been done even a handful of times, and why? And also, I would have to add to that, maybe this MILAB stuff has been put there to discredit real abductions. Again, really hard to say. If you guys have any information on it, please drop in the comments. And, I'd like to look into it further. But again, I do have to say that there is somewhat limited evidence on it. There's not an overwhelming argument to say that MILABs are real, although there are people who claim to be MILAB victims, and not to discredit them at all. I just haven't personally seen as much credible evidence on it that I would like to see, other than witness testimony, which I'm not trying to undermine people's experience or say that's not enough, but I would like to see more on it. Let me guys know what you think in the comments. All right, take care, guys.
Richard Doty. I was assigned as a special agent with Air Force Office of Special Investigations at Curlin Air Force Base. I was a counterintelligence officer at the base.
Had you heard of any the projects that deal with ET simulations? What I'm referring to here, there have been some contact events. The one you're referring to, I have sources, was actually not ET, but was, if you will, a staged event by military or special operations to look ET, because this woman had seen something classified. Have you heard of those sort of operations?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if
false INW.
Yeah, right. We did do that, yes. OSI did that. There was a special group out of the 7602nd Air Intel Wing at Fort Belvoir that came out and did that. They had these people that had maybe some sort of defects, anatomical defects that were brought in to fool people into thinking they're aliens. Yeah. I can't give you any specifics because the program is still classified, and they probably still doing it. I wouldn't doubt it. They were still doing it.
Yes, I've interviewed a number of men in those special operations programs.
Yeah, there was a special, a highly classified operation that occurred in Tacoma, Washington, and I'm saying maybe 86 or 87. That was exactly. It was at the a naval base in Seattle. I think it was Whidbey Island Naval Air Station, I think. But anyways, with Naval Air Station up there, where these civilians got onto the base and got into something, and they saw something they weren't supposed to see, and this group came out and went into their home and scared the dickens out of them and
staged an alien event.
Exactly. It's very sensitive. Very sensitive, yeah.